I'd like to begin with the flag salute. Ms. Amanda Tanner, would you give us the flag salute, please?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to read our land acknowledgement statement. The Pullman Public Schools reside on the homelands of the Nimiipuu Nez Perce people. We express our deepest respect for and gratitude towards the Next, I'd like to move to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda that you know of this evening?
No changes to the agenda this evening.
Okay.
I move approval of the agenda.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the agenda is approved. Next, I'd like to invite our student rep for the PHS ASB report.
So really, right, we just got into the year. So over the summer, we talked about like what our main goal is at ASB, and really came to the conclusion that it's to create a fun environment through engagement and belonging, which when we were planning the assembly that happened today, we really kept in mind. And when the assembly happened, that all went great.
Nice.
Oh, and at the assembly, we really like focused on having everybody participate. So we did the roller coaster, had 3 different can't think of the word right now. My bad.
No worries.
Yeah.
It's the first day of school, so
Yeah,
you
first day of
probably have a
school,
lot
it's a
on
long
your
day.
mind, so.
That's all.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Connor? All right, Connor, I did want to mention just one thing.
Yeah.
And so the board is wanting to put together a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging task force.
Yeah.
To help us with a variety of issues in the school district. And we really would like students' voice on that task force. And so just noodle around in the ASB group, like maybe how you could perhaps help us if you
Yeah.
want to, in getting the word out for students to apply.
Okay.
There is an application link. It went out on Parent Square. And so just let us know if you would be interested in
Yeah.
doing some sort of advertising for us, and we'll be happy to provide you any information that you
Okay,
need.
awesome.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, Connor.
Okay, next we'll move on to board reports, and I'd like to begin with Craig.
Well, it was my pleasure yesterday to attend the before-school meeting of all the staff. They came for breakfast and then had a presentation in the auditorium. Just a delight to see the professional teachers that we have in this district, excited about meeting their kids the next day, exciting about the year coming up, the camaraderie that was built between them. It was just very nice to see and invigorating. It was nice to be there. I did hear from a lot of teachers over the course of the last month, mostly about the copy count limits at the elementary level, and that there doesn't seem to be any, they don't understand, they understand the saving of the money, but it's a limit per class, whether you have 16 in that class, whether you have 28 in that class. Whether you have copies that need to be printed for a curriculum item, for a curricular item, or copies that need to be done for something else. So there's just a lot of questions out there about the equity of that, and it just seems like the numbers that come out, I've heard 350, I've heard 500, they're just nice round numbers. There's no looking into last year as to what was the average last year of how much there was no, didn't appear to be any substance behind that number other than we just want to save money, so here you go. And with our Lightning Circle and the Pullman Promise, all about students and student performance and providing a curriculum for students that we need to remediate, students that we need to accelerate, especially at the elementary level when they're not that adept at using the computer. There just seems to be that there might be another answer there. But anyway, that's my report.
Thank you, Craig.
That's what I heard from the staff.
Next, Lisa.
Yeah, thanks. I don't have much to report, but just wanted to say that it's been a really great first day of school and getting to be back in the buildings. There's so much energy. And also with my sort of new lens starting the year as a board director, also a ton of work that goes into it. So just really appreciate that at all levels. It's really evident once you start seeing it through that lens.
Thank you, Lisa. Aaron?
Yeah, kind of similar to what they both said, just everyone kind of excited to get back in and eager to, well, at least most people excited to get back in. And yeah, just, everybody getting back into it and starting the year fresh again. So it seemed like everything was going well today on the first day. And yeah, just getting into the groove.
I know it's exciting. Thank you, Aaron. Amanda?
So I just had an update on the WASDA nominating committee. I attempted to get an email out to everybody in DA10 yesterday. I've had some blockage problems that I'm working through with WASDA, but if you haven't received it already, you will in the next couple of days. Basically, it's about the open spots that are in our district area, which are on the resolutions committee and the legislative committee, in addition to WASDA positions open as president, vice president, or president-elect, vice president, and board of directors. So the filing window will be September 1st through the 16th. The slate will be announced on September 16th. The voting window will be open from October taking a spot at the state level. That's my plug that I'm supposed to do.
Thank you, Amanda. I will say, WASDA, it can be some work, but it is very rewarding to serve on some of their committees. You learn a lot. I myself have served on the Ledge Committee for 5 years, and it was really, the pandemic kind of killed it, to be honest, because they started meeting completely remotely for days at a time, and it was just too, I was already working remote, so it's a long story. But no, I would just encourage you all to, if you are able, to consider it. I know the board of directors would also be pretty cool if you are interested in anything that happens at the state level with schools, just because they learn a lot more about a lot of things than a typical board director, because you're kind of plugged into a lot of stuff. So if you got a little time, it takes a little bit of travel, but it's all, WASDA covers it. It's rewarding experience. So I'll just add on to
Thank
your
you.
plug,
I
absolutely.
appreciate that.
And then as far as my report, I don't really have anything to report. I just am too excited about starting a new year. I always love the energy. It's sort of a slog, but everyone's super excited and ready to do it right now, so it's awesome. So I will pass it on to Dr. Maxwell for the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much. So I will start by talking about beginning of the school year. So it's first day of school. So Bert and I were out and about, went to every building, and got to visit classrooms. A lot of energy. A lot of our kids showed up that were on our enrollment, which is a good sign. I don't have actual numbers yet, as we have some enrolling today, actually. So we have some that didn't show up, so we're trying to work through those numbers. But overall, I think very happy with the numbers that we're seeing initially. So teachers are excited, doing a great job. Staff has been busy today. Students were really happy to be back in school, I think, for the most part. So a lot of energy, great things happening out there. So also with that, was able to be at the Kamiak site for the Boys and Girls Club there. And so the Kamiak students walked down the hallway, went to the Boys and Girls Club. The Jefferson students got off the bus. We had one extra. Tomorrow. And so that's up and running. And so kids were engaged. They were working at tables with each other, and so they were getting some things set up. So first day there looks very, very good. Let's see, what's next? So Before I get to the items that are actually under there that I know about initially, just some clarity on the copy paper. Thank you, Craig, for bringing that up. So, a lot of discussion since email went out, probably mid-August from the building principals. So the building elementary principals kind of got together and we're taking a look at the use of copiers and numbers of copies all over the place. And so what they were trying to do is standardize to a degree, so it was the same at each building. So we know there's new teachers. They obviously have probably more to copy. We also have Core Plus and some of the other special programs that may have to do some copying. So they've been working as a group to address those issues as they come up. Also, it's the beginning of the year, so we know that there's typically a little bit more copying that's done. So we're monitoring that situation and taking a look at it, and the principals are doing a really good job taking a look at their building specific, because they are, and making adjustments as we need to. So, so we had to start with a number. They selected a number kind of based off the range that they had, and again, we'll take a look at, do we need to alter that? And so we also came up with some great ways, and I shared those at the kickoff yesterday, where we'd been doing a lot of printing of forms and sending them home. Well, we can actually send forms through Parent Square, and so parents can fill them out electronically. So, and it actually will tell us who's completed the forms and who hasn't completed the forms. So I think there's some efficiencies we're finding as we're problem solving and going through some solutions. So I think that's gonna, and a lot of our staff didn't know that feature was even available. It's only our second year using that particular communication device, but Courtney's offered to do trainings with staff, go out and do individual trainings with grade level teams or department teams. So appreciate her volunteering herself to go out and do the training, since she's our Parent Square expert. I think that'll be helpful for staff. And so we want to make sure they have the tools that they need, but we also need to be careful with our copying. And there were some real anomalies when we looked at it. And we can now track exactly how many copies are going out per building, per department or person. So we'll monitor that. The other item before we get to the listed ones, just to keep you updated, we had talked a little bit about, or I had mentioned in some reports, we are applying for a construction planning grant that is available specifically for small schools who have become eligible for small schools construction funding from the state. The state's put a lot of money into that program for this upcoming year, years I should say, multiple. So we are eligible up to 12 million. So we are working with CSG, Construction Services Group, to apply for that. You have to apply for a survey planning grant first, and then you apply for the projects. So, so right now we're just in that initial stage of saying, yes, we're interested, and we'd like the grant to do the survey to see if we're eligible for all these projects that we have listed. So we prioritize several buildings that also, if you recall, in the energy audit, we're not meeting the standards, so we're taking a look at trying to do some projects like upgrade the boilers at LMS, which they're 80% efficient. We could get boilers that are supposed to be 96% efficient. So that's just one example of several of the projects. We're hoping to get Lincoln, Franklin, and Jefferson. There's a variety of projects, so we may be able to add some more projects depending on what the actual costs based on the survey, if we get the grant for the survey. So this is all very initial, but just to keep you updated, we're going to apply for it because it's money that's available, and we don't want to pass that up. So, and that could be everything from boiler replacements to HVAC systems to roofs. So I want to keep you informed of that. I'm going to check on my list as I write these all down. Courtney, can we go to the family student handbook? So at the last board meeting, we had some questions about academic dishonesty, plagiarism. Hey, is that missing in the handbook? Where is that? And so We went back and took a look at, so we do have a policy that references that, 3241. So it is in there. Thank you for enlarging that, Courtney, for my eyes. So, so it talks about student discipline. There's a type 1, and then can you scroll, Courtney, for me to level A, level B, and level C. And then if you look in the appendix of the family and student handbook, it's referenced in student discipline on page 18 and is included in entirety starting on page 49 of the student family handbook. So I wanted to make sure that I was addressing those questions of where those things might be.
Thank you.
And that's a pretty massive handbook to look through, so
Yeah, it's got a lot.
I had to go back through and find it myself with Courtney's assistance. So and on page 181, on the PHS addendum, cheating and academic fraud is also referenced. And so we just took a screenshot of that to share with the board.
Oh, thank you for that, Dr.
So especially just before, it's hard to read through all 181 pages. And we look through the handbooks every year and try to keep them updated, but it's a lot of pages to look over, and we make notes on pages that we want to make some adjustments or different things. We also have cheating addressed under cell phones, electronic communication devices as well. And then there's the quote, inappropriate electronic. I know we'll be talking about later on cell phone policy and such in the future, so want to let you know exactly where it is currently, where they are for your information. So I appreciate that question. So.
And it looks like it addresses the AI as well, which is
Yeah,
good.
and I
It'll
mentioned,
probably need to be updated at some point, but it's
Yeah.
good it's at least in there.
yeah, and I referenced this in the kickoff yesterday that we're going to do a AI task force, and I've asked staff that are interested if they will submit a more formal reach out to staff. But I'd like to get a staff together from secondary, elementary, and talk about AI guidelines. There are a lot of examples floating around, but they're changing rapidly. Before we go to a policy, I might want to try a guideline. I'd recommend a guideline first, so I want to get staff input on that because it varies across elementary through middle through high. So I mentioned that at the kickoff yesterday, and so after we get settled in a little bit, we'll get that together and start taking a look at coming up with some AI guidelines because it's artificial intelligence is expanding just beyond written. I mean, it goes into art, it goes into photos. There's a lot to it. So, so we will be putting that together and working on that. So.
You mentioned yesterday in your AI talk about how it is moving faster than we can make rules to accommodate it. And so it's always going to be a game of catch up, or at least for a long time it's going to be.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I went to ASA conference this spring. I went to several AI conferences, and what they were showing me, which had not been released but was coming out like within 4 weeks, was just mind-boggling. What's coming, and so it's very hard. Just like technology has been hard to keep up with, this is even faster than technology. So it's going to be moving, and I anticipate that's probably why we maybe go with guidelines first before we lock something in until we get a better idea of how fast this is going to evolve.
Well, and something to consider for a policy would be a general statement that,
Sure.
no AI is allowed, and then the guidelines would deal with specific instances of AI use in schools, right? So like,
It's not even possible.
I know, but the thing is your broad statement would be the policy that everyone can follow, and then anytime you create an exception, you just make a new guideline for it. And so it at least lets you help keep up. I mean, you can't, the thing is to say it's not possible is to give up, and I don't really think that we should. So I would
I
say
wouldn't
we
say
make
that.
guidelines.
I wouldn't say we're giving up. I mean, I teach visual media at the college level. We're having these same discussions too. But if I ask students to take pictures with a camera and the camera they have is their smartphone, that involves AI. There is no way for them to avoid it, or they might not even know. And so I think this is really a question of ethics, and we can always talk about ethics.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I think it's going to come down to, tools, it's great and it's helpful, and for others, it's a real issue. So there is an AI Innovation Summit coming up. We'll be sending some folks to that to learn more. But yeah, this is going to be
If you are putting together a task force, a possibility for collaboration. Level or post-secondary level are wondering what's being taught in high school. Like there needs to be some consistency between those levels, and so
That's a great idea.
that could be helpful for those conversations.
And I also agree that it's important to teach the students how to use it properly or safely or ethically, as
Yeah.
opposed to just, it's not okay. Because that's, I think that part's unavoidable.
well, and just from a historical perspective, I can remember when the first calculator came out, and our teachers would not let them be in the classroom. And now we have calculators in the classroom,
Sometimes.
and we use them appropriately so it's interesting.
I have one on mine.
And
Well, I do like the comment that the teachers made when the calculators first came out and say, well, you won't always have a calculator with you. Yeah, we do. We do now.
do now, yeah. Back then, maybe not.
Back then we
but-
didn't,
yeah,
but we do
didn't,
now.
but Anyway, it's here, and I don't see it going away, so I think we're going to have to address it.
That is true.
And we'll work on that, we'll put it on the list, but anyway, not to digress too much, but just want to let you know that. So, any questions on the family student handbook? I know I got off on that a little bit, but, okay. Next, I just want to, and I know you've heard about this, but again, just make sure folks know, OSPI in collaboration with WAA, WSP, WASA, and WASA have been working to clarify student discipline rules and policies. So the emergency rules for 2025 or 2024-25 school year, really, I just hit some bullets. There's much more detail within here, but just to give you that 30,000 foot picture, clarifies really a definition of what a classroom exclusion is, and that's when a student leaves the classroom or is asked to leave the classroom. Provides much more clarity on that definition. So we'll be talking about that more with staff. Also includes definition of discretionary and non-discretionary discipline or quote behavior. It's really those discretionary or non-discretionary behaviors that result in discipline. And so there's a little bit of a philosophy switch to address that, really talking about behavior and how do we address those particular behaviors that are discretionary versus non-discretionary. Standards, and they talk a lot about educator certification and renewal, teacher principal evaluation criteria, frameworks, and cultural competency, and the equity inclusion standards. So really referencing those pieces as part of the professional development for our educators, and that we go through and for recertification, those types of things. So there's a focus on that. And then, of course, requires school districts and boards to revisit their district policies and procedures in order that all staff work cooperatively and consistent enforcement. So we will have to redo our discipline policy and procedure. So that will be coming as this emergency rule timeline for input and different things. So that'll be something that we'll be working on. And then this was already in place because it's law, but an emergency expulsion with emergency removal, excuse me, and that we have already updated in our policy and procedure because that was earlier. So that has been already corrected in our existing policy and procedures. But those are kind of the big bullets. I think I forwarded you some additional information today that probably came from WASDA or from OSPI on emergency rules. So, any questions on those? You're going to see it again. So, just to let you know that is coming. So, thank you. Last on the superintendent's report, I just wanted to kind of make a comment on, today I found out that there was a press release from the city stating that Pullman School District ends interlocal agreement with the city of Pullman to operate aquatic center. So I just want to remind folks that we have been talking for several years about it costs a lot of money. Also, the operating costs for those, which we pay to the city of Pullman to be able to utilize that for a swim team, for example. So we've been talking over the years about how to afford the repairs or the upgrades or the maintenance of that facility. So press release came out talking about the interlocal. We did send a notice because the interlocal notice requires us to give a year's advance if our intent is maybe to back out. Our intent was to not back out of the entire interlocal agreement, but take a look at the aquatic center and enter into more discussions on that. And so I think the city took that as, well, that voids the entire interlocal agreement. But yes, let's meet and talk about the interlocal agreement. So we have a meeting set up with the city on Tuesday to talk about the interlocal agreement. So wanted to give you that update as well. So.
And I'd just like to add, as far as swimming facilities for our state champion swim team, that we have options outside of the aquatic center, correct? I mean,
Oh, yeah, we do.
Okay, so I just want, anyone who is concerned that that would interrupt swim practice, that there are alternatives, so.
Yeah, and so like I said, we will be working with the city, and nothing has been decided because you as a board have not taken any action on anything.
Can I also make a clarification?
Yes,
It was the board's intent to renegotiate the interlocal
correct.
Yes.
contract, not to void it or cancel it or anything like that. So this was the beginning of the negotiations for renegotiating, was
Yeah.
my understanding is what the board was asking for.
Yeah, the board was asking for that, and in the letter tried to, part of it I think is hard because we have to use the language from the interlocal, which, talks about termination or intent to terminate, but our intent was really to request that we take a look, is there a way we can renegotiate the costs, so. And there are, unfortunately, the interlocal is more than just the aquatic center. Yes.
I read the press release as a little bit of trying to interfere in this renegotiation process, given that nothing's been decided at this point.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment from does this signal to us that the city is uninterested in negotiating?
I don't want to speculate or put words I don't know, because I haven't had, haven't talked with them since this has come out. So I think, we'll meet on Tuesday and have a better feeling of where we are at, where they're at. So I know when you're talking finances and facilities, it's never an easy discussion. So, but we will enter into discussions with them, and of course, we'll bring anything back to the board for more discussion and action. But like I said, in order to start this process, according to our understanding of the local land agreement, we had to give notice within a year ahead of time. So that was the intention.
Okay, are there any other questions? Thank you for the extensive superintendent's update, Rob.
Sorry,
I can
a
tell
little
we're
bit more,
back.
but it's the first day of school. A lot of things are going on.
Lots of
and
things
I probably
happening.
forgot something else, but those are my notes. So I can go into the equity update next if you'd like. So
I can start us off,
Okay.
and then you can jump in. So we've throughout the summer, the board has mentioned in a variety of situations and circumstances the idea to create a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging task force. And so during our retreat in July, we kind of scoped out a rough outline of how that would look. Right, so the application is due, hold on, it was opened on 8/21 and it's due 9/16. The board will then, in the open meeting on 9/25, I hope my dates are correct, I got called out on one of them already, that we will have an open meeting to discuss the applications and the appointment of the task force. I'm hoping that the task force will be comprised of 7 members. But we would like 1 staff member or teacher, 3 community members, and then 1 non-participating board member. This board member would basically just be there to listen for the board and to provide context for whenever there's questions on like something the board has given the task force, or vice versa, or how things work. Craig has volunteered to be that liaison. I will be his alternate, and so whenever Craig can't come to the meetings, I'll take care of it. Let me see. We hope to have the first meeting in October. If we can get the committee, or the task force rather, I gotta get my language straight, appointed by like roughly the end of September, I think that we could reach out to everyone and arrange a meeting hopefully by October. And then we could just see how it goes from there, right? Because I think it'll probably depend on availability. I believe on the 25th, we'll also discuss how we all want to manage the agenda of said task force. And so roughly the way that that's going to look is the board tasks things to them, the task force, either through verbal confirmation. And so I might email you all and say, hey, I want to do this policy, thinking of sending it to the, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Belonging group. What do y'all think, right? As long as no one's opposed, we would send a policy for review, maybe just for an opinion, or where we could do better in an equity sense, and really proceed that way, right? Which is just to sign out tasks. If there's a particular thing, process, activity, school, business that we would like the task force like opinion on, we would then task them to go do research or do whatever, right? So, but this is all new, right? So we're gonna have to kind of play it by ear. So just keep that in mind. But I'm super excited for it. I think, like I said, 9:25 we should have members, and then we will proceed going forward. So, and then Bob, would you like to give an update, just like on current activities or applications?
Yeah, certainly. I was just going to add to that. The application has gone out. We've currently received 13 applications have been submitted. 3 PHS students, 6 parents/guardians, 3 parents/guardians and community member affiliation, so affiliated with an organization, and then 1 PSD staff member, thus far as of today.
Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, I wanted to send out, okay, so we've had a lot of inquiries in the past from a variety of folks about this particular type of task force. And so I was going to pull all their emails together and just send out an invitation to apply, just because I don't know if all of them are parents or on Parent Square or whatever. If there is anyone that any of you all would like to be included in that invitation. And so this is basically, they can be parents, they can be staff members, but they've already got the invitation, so I'm kind of looking for, whoever got missed, but we can include them too, right? So just send them to me soonish. I think I'm going to send it out Friday, so just tell me the next 2 days. I know it's not a lot of time, but just anybody you want it forwarded to. And we can always send it to them later. I just want to give them time to fill it out, right? So, but just let me know thoughts, but I will be sending that out on Friday. And then, Bob, anything else on that?
No, that's all I had.
Okay,
I wanted
cool.
to add, just give an update on the number of applications received.
All right, well, thank you very much, and I look forward to it. Are there any questions from the board on anything?
I have one quick
Oh, yeah, what's
question
up?
on that, which I think is in the materials, but just I know it's the first question I get if I ask anybody about it, which is what is the expected time commitment for participating on that?
That is to be determined, right? So I think that's really going to be a negotiation of the committee members themselves, right? Because once we might ask for a meeting that we don't know about, right? So, but I don't anticipate it would be more than a few meetings, like a term. So maybe a few in the fall, a few in the spring. We're probably not going to have a lot this year just because we're just starting it. But I would anticipate 3-ish would be my guess, right? But I don't, like I said, I don't know. But that's, yeah, lots of questions, not a lot of answers. Are there any other, that's a good question though. Are there any other questions? Okay. In that case, I will read our public comment statement. Courtney, do we have anyone signed up this evening? Okay, the public comment section of the agenda provides an opportunity for individuals or members of a group to address the board in educational issues. If you intend to provide public comment this evening, you may register to speak using the sign-in sheet located near the boardroom entrance. Has everyone signed in who would wish to speak this evening? Okay. To ensure fairness and provide for an orderly meeting, we respectfully require that individuals speak only once for a maximum of 3 minutes, and they may not transfer their speaking time to others. Please be attentive as your name will be called in the order it is listed on the sign-in sheet. To assist board members in review and consideration of your comments, we appreciate you providing a written copy of your remarks along with your email or mailing address on the sign-in sheet. When addressing the board, please approach the microphone and state your name before presenting your comments. The board will listen and may offer clarification if needed. However, the board will not engage in a discussion at this time. Depending on the nature of the topic, the board may decide to schedule it as a discussion item for a future meeting. We kindly request that all comments remain civil and respectful, and we remind you to consider the impact of your words and know that you bear personal responsibility for their content. We caution you to avoid certain statements that may infringe upon the rights of others under various laws, including those protecting privacy or prohibiting defamation. Providing public comment demonstrates your feelings of engagement and participation in the decision-making process in our community, and we thank you in advance for your public comment. And it looks like we just have one person signed up this evening, Melissa Mayer. Good evening, Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I haven't met a few of the school board members, but Melissa Mayer is my name. I teach here at Pullman High School. I'm the DECA and yearbook advisor, as well as the business and marketing teacher. I've taught here since 2016. I will admit I'm a bit nervous. I've never spoken in front of the school board before. I can talk in front of like hundreds of kids, but I don't know, adults make me nervous, right? I feel like staying quiet on an issue that's very near and dear to my heart is not an option at this point. Also, I feel like it's only fair to educate you as a school board and the community at large of a cut that recently occurred in the CTE department, Career and Technical Department here at PHS. As CTE teachers, every spring is a bit nerve-wracking. We have to try our best to recruit students, and even from year to year, we don't necessarily know which classes we're teaching. For example, this year I'm teaching career choices, which I haven't taught before. It's been awesome, don't get me wrong, but that is kind of a part of our job that can be a little bit stressful. We don't know until the end of the previous year when we received the email from our admin with her master schedule what classes we're teaching, because it's all based on student interest. At the end of our last school year on the master schedule, it showed that we had achieved the goal of having family and consumer science classes in particular full, and a few classes even had a wait list. About a month ago, one of our FCS teachers, with no notice, that her contract was cut from 1.0 to 0.8 because we were going from 3 foods classes down to 2. Can you imagine overnight getting a 20% pay cut and knowing your next paycheck would be cut by that amount, as well as a scramble that had to happen in order to get those students in other classes? There's very much of a domino effect when a full CTE class is cut. Our future second-year culinary courses, which are also very popular, will be smaller in years to come. There are a number of students who were dropped from the foods classes because of the cut that were really looking forward to taking that class, and some were seniors, so they'll never have the opportunity to take the class. But their schedules had to be changed at the last minute, and it caused quite a bit of chaos. Classes like foods teach students so many valuable real-world lessons. My own child, who took both the foods and culinary classes, is now working in the restaurant industry, and by taking those classes and receiving her Safe Serve certification, she's able to move up in her job more quickly. The domino effect continues when we discuss the CTE pathway graduation, which I think is something that we should all be really proud of at Pullman School District, and it does provide a graduation pathway to a lot of our kids that helps keep our graduation rate rather high. So what's something that we entered this year that I honestly think is very encouraging is kind of an interdisciplinary approach. So instead of just having to take, for example, that foods and culinary class, now kids can pick and choose a little bit more. So for example, they could take my marketing and entrepreneurship class, and then they can take like a fashion design class or the early childhood education class. The related nature of those I think will help students realize that there's an interdisciplinary nature to particular career and technical education and jobs. Many of our PHS students take advantage of those pathways, and the graduation rate is high. So I hope that there's something we can do to resolve this, and I did have a little bit more, but I have copies for everybody. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Melissa. We appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a copy of that, please. Thank you. Okay. All right, next, we'll move to the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of the consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent agenda this evening?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the consent agenda passes. Next, we'll move to action items. Action items have previously been discussed by the board, and the board will now take action by motion. And we'll begin with the 2024-2025 annual organizational meeting calendar. So, oh, thank you. It's much easier to see. I talked with you all briefly, just in separate conversations, about the schedule, right? And so you'll see here we've put the DEIB task force on here. We've also put, I believe, parent partnership right there. I put Lisa in the parent partnership. I put Craig and myself in the DEIB task force. I also shifted Aaron and myself as priority on the policy rep, right? So I'm trying to mostly load balance. So if I've done that badly, let me know, please. So if anyone feels overwhelmed or like they have too much, feel free to reach out. I'd also like to just kind of say it's okay to ask if one of us can attend another meeting sometime, right? So it's totally fine if you're not going to make it. I mean, my priority is that one of us go to all of these things as much as we can. So if there's ever a time where you all are like, well, I just can't make this or whatever, let me know or work it out. If you can work it out amongst yourselves, that's totally fine. If you just can't, let me know and I'll try to recruit someone to go, right? And I can go myself too. So just keep that in mind because our goal is not to overwhelm anyone with tasks. And really, we just want to make sure that we're, being represented on all of the things that we've agreed to do. So, are there any questions or any sort of comments on the meeting? What is it? A calendar? Is it a? It's more of a
annual organizational meeting for committee assignments.
Committee assignments. Okay, thank you. See, we're missing the 4 committee assignments. But if there are no questions or whatnot, I would entertain a motion.
I move approval of the 2024-2025 annual organizational meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2024-2025 annual organizational meeting list of representatives and committee appointments. I'm just add that. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Next, Dr. Maxwell will present the 2024-25 minimum basic ed compliance report.
Yeah, thank you very much. So as Courtney brings that up, so again, you see this every year. It's a report we have to send to the state to make sure that we're meeting the minimum minutes required. Just to let you know, I did have a question regarding 6A. Why is that 1027.75 hours when the other K-5 and the high school are the same? That has been that way before I even arrived in Pullman. Not really found a solid answer to as why that is that way. My guess is, it's why that was done, when it was done, if it was transportation related or transition time, I'm not quite sure. But that was one of the questions I came in between presenting this at the last time. So one suggestion might be, why don't we make them all the same? Be a lot easier for scheduling and would, especially at the middle school level, especially with kids needing more instructional time or student engagement time. That might be something to take a look at. So just thought I'd bring that question because it did come up to the board.
So is this something that would need to be changed for next year? Or would, if we were to change this document, would it immediately come into?
Right now, we're not going to change it because all the bell schedules.
That's exactly what I thought, yeah.
It might be something that the board might be interested in looking at for future years. So just want to bring that to you.
And so when would we need to have that conversation if we would like to change this, when it was appropriate?
I would say probably definitely in winter, so it's by January.
So, like Bob mentioned, I spent some time with him last week talking about this because I felt really strange after the last meeting with the 44-hour difference at the middle school. And especially now that they have 6 periods and the high school has 6 periods, it doesn't seem like there needs to be a discrepancy in 44 hours. And I think that the students at that level could use the extra 25 hours or 25 minutes per week of classroom time, especially, you know, our students, we're focusing on our low-income students might need a little extra time. Why wouldn't we give that to them? So I was talking to Bob, and then I also relayed to Nathan that I'm for voting to approve this because we have already started school for this year, but I would like to look into changing this starting next year. And I don't know if that is something that the board needs to approve or how that happens, but I think that that should be a priority for our next school year.
I have already made a note to put it on the discussion docket for like January-ish. So I'll
Okay.
just throw that
And
out.
also, I had misspoke at the last meeting saying, as long as this makes sense and us having bells at, you know, the 5s and the 0s, that would maybe be okay, but I looked at the bell schedule and they're actually at the 9s and the 1s and the 2s and the 3s, so I also don't think that that's probably very easy for anybody to deal with.
Craig, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Just that, I mean, it is just a calculation, it isn't a discussion really, you just would count how many minutes are in there, you get to count one transition period for each class. So, I mean, it just is a matter of when they start and when they end, and subtract lunch, and there you go. I mean, it seems like, I mean, I don't know, it just seems like that's not a hard number to come up with, if you look at the schedule.
Yeah, it's not, it's just a matter of shifting minutes. I mean,
Yeah,
but I wanted to bring that to your attention because that did come up and it's,
Comments? Yes, please.
I would make one comment on that, just because we've heard it from multiple student groups that the hallway time is stressful for them, so I'd want to make sure we address it in a way that doesn't make hallway time.
Like,
very good point.
I move approval of the 2024-2025 minimum basic education compliance report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2024-25 minimum basic ed compliance report. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, the motion passes. Next, I'll ask Justin Polstead up to review policy 6. Last time, but they were all merged into one, and so our staff was kind enough to merge them together for us. So thank you all very much. Justin, go.
Yes. So which is kind of the opposite of what we're doing big picture with these policies. So it was all in 6,700. All three of these were one, just in 6,700. And in accordance, following with the state, we're breaking these into 6,700, 6,701, and 02, a little easier to follow, a little easier to understand.
Anyone?
I move approval of 67, policy 6700 nutrition, 6701 recess and physical activity, and 6702 wellness.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve policy 6700 nutrition, 6701 recess and physical activity, and 6702 wellness. Just again with the clarification that these all were one policy and now the same policy is broken up into 3.
Yes.
Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. And we actually have no discussion items this evening. I don't know if you guys can believe that. I think for the most part, it's because everyone is too busy right now to do that. But we will have tons next time. And in the interim, we don't have an executive session tonight either, right?
But we'll have,
Listed.
Cool. Okay, in that case, I hereby adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much. And just let me know in the interim if anything comes up.
Thank you.
Oh, and